Look at, I made an actual sort of background. This is a beautiful new bench. And obviously we don't put decorations on benches. So Mr. Skull's joining me, and then my matches that don't really work anymore. But they're aesthetically pleasing. And I look atrocious. Work today, I'm feeling a bit funny. Don't think it's the COVID, I think it's allergies. So windy, so hot. It's 75 degrees in here, not by choice. Oh, it's even hot upstairs. Thank goodness we downstairs. I think it's about 80 up there. Oh, and no, we don't have air here in a house that was built in 1950. Well, someone could have updated it. Anyway, so I'm back, and sooner than 4 months like last time. Wow, look at me go. But today, okay, I can guarantee it will not be as long of a video as last time. That was my longest one ever. I talked a long time. That was too much for me. And I practiced this beforehand, so I basically said that whole speech twice. I did have a little break in between practicing and now recording. Oh, so hot in here. So hopefully I'm not just droning on and on. I'm just distracted by my atrocious hair and face. Ignore that. So today we are talking about the Wineville, I presume it was not pronounced Wineville, Wineville chicken coop murders. And some of true crime junkies, or if you just like know the big basics, like, what are some basics? Bobby Dunbar, The Boy in the Box, Lucky Lindy's son, I think Charles Lindbergh Jr., I believe so. But things like that. Things that have become very popular over time. That most people, if they hear of it, know what it is. Like a modern day Casey Anthony or something like that. So if you're familiar with true crime, then you know this is connected to Walter Collins, supposedly. Walter Collins is a very famous true crime case. And no, I am not covering Walter Collins a lot today. There's so many videos on Walter Collins alone and his whole mom and situation, and we need to focus on that there were other victims, not just Walter Collins. And also, Walter Collins' case is still technically unsolved, so this may not have even been Walter Collins. So we'll just keep that in mind. I will mention Walter Collins because he does work his way in there. There's no way to avoid that. But I'm not going to be focusing on like just Walter Collins' case. I don't think I even mentioned his mom in my notes. Focus should be on Walter anyway in his case. Anyway, so this is about the Wineville chicken coop murders, and this took place from August 16th of 1926 and August 31st of 1928. So this went on for 2 years, unfortunately. And I know some people don't like it when there's like children involved in true crime cases. So the ages in this are various. We do learn the exact ages of a couple victims. Yes, this plural. This obviously took place in Wineville, California. And again, the silver lining I always try to think positively on, I guess, is that it is solved. In a sense, minus the Walter Collins piece, but this is the Wineville chicken coop murders solved. Walter Collins, unsolved. So there's that. So, for anyone who's seen the 2008 film Changeling, or the plotline of American Horror Story Hotel, it's based partially on this. I have not seen either, so I don't know how accurately it is, but supposedly that's where they got their info from. Anyway, we're gonna start with this asshole of a fella named Gordon Stewart Northcott. He's the murderer, if you haven't guessed that already. But he, I'll go back and forth between calling him Gordon and Northcott, but it's the same person. And he was born in Bladworth, Canada, and raised in British Columbia. So he was from Canada. And then he moved to LA with his parents in 1924, so he was about 18 years old. And then he asked his dad, who apparently his dad's very nice for doing this, just bought him a plot of land in Wineville, California, and his dad built him a chicken ranch on it. His dad was a construction worker, so this was his specialty. Not necessarily chicken ranches, but like building the buildings. And I couldn't see much about his childhood or particularly his dad. But if he just bought his son land and built him a ranch, I think he's pretty dang nice. To say the least, I don't know much about him. I didn't dig much for him. He doesn't really have a place in the story that much. And so it was Gordon, his dad, and then he also had his nephew from Canada, Sanford Clark, come down and help us well, because that is a lot of work for 2 people. It's still a lot of work for 3 people. But it was later revealed that Gordon, I'm turning my page, don't look at me. Gordon bought the land and started the chicken farming just so his nephew could come down. And some people will be like, oh, was his nephew in a bad way in Canada? Was he just really wanting to hang with his cool Uncle Gordon? And no, he was probably looking to make a few bucks. Sanford Clark was, maybe see his aunt and uncle. And Gordon started, once his dad left, molesting and physically beating Sanford Clark. I forgot Sanford's age. Maybe 14, and then after the 2 years was 16, or it might be 16 to 18. He was not an adult, needless to say. But, so basically after Gordon's dad left, because his dad would not be a fan of this, at least he better not be, he started physically and sexually abusing his nephew, because that's what Gordon does. And also, he wouldn't let Sanford go back home to Canada. Because 1, he would tell, and 2, he just really liked Sanford. A little bit too much. So, he would write letters. Well, he would have Sanford write the letters to send back home. So it'd be in his handwriting to say he's doing fine, he loves it there, he just loves the chickens, he's living the dream. Not the case. But Sanford's sister, Jessie, I wonder what would have happened if Jessie hadn't been in the story. But she got suspicious of the letters, and she decided to go visit her brother down in Wineville, California. And I assume, like, Gordon's mom and dad, because they're family. But she went down there to see her brother and stayed maybe a week. And that he was terrified. He was feared for his life, and that Northcott had killed 4 boys on the ranch and was abusing him. So when she returned home a week later, terrified, I would have left right away, but I'm assuming she didn't want to seem suspicious and maybe get her brother into trouble, even more trouble. But she went to an American council and told them what she learned, which is basically like an embassy. I don't really know the difference, but something like that. And the council contacted the LAPD about Jesse's complaint, as they called it, a complaint. And the LAPD contacted U.S. Immigration Services for some fact-checking. I guess because if they're from Canada but are living in the U.S., who exactly would handle it, maybe? Who knows? But after this, on August 31st of 1928, 2 Immigration Service inspectors, Judson F. Shaw and George W. Scalorn, you know them, visited the ranch and took Sanford into custody. No, they didn't have the wrong guy. They took Sanford into protective custody. They didn't arrest Sanford thinking he was the guy they were looking for. But Gordon Northcott, a-hole, he saw the agents driving up the long road to his ranch. You know those long driveways that are whoosh, whoosh, and you see the little house in the background. It was kind of like that, so he could see them coming. And since he didn't get many visitors, I'm presuming, he told Sanford to stall the agents coming up, or he will be shot from the tree line. where Gordon then ran to like a few seconds later. So during the next 2 hours, Sanford stalled. I don't know what he did for 2 hours to stall them, but he did. And when he felt safe enough with the agents, after 2 whole hours, he told them Gordon fled, like, into the trees. And they're like, couldn't have told us this sooner. But no. Which I guess, almost Stockholmy at this point, but besides the point. So, turns out Gordon and his mom, Sarah Louise Northcott, had fled to Canada. They went back to Canada, where they were arrested near Vernon, British Columbia on September 19th of 1928. Throat sore. I'm not used to talking this much. But when I was doing the research, I had to like dig a little bit, not very much. I'm like, why is his mom suddenly appearing in this? Because we know like his dad like helped with the ranch and stuff, yada yada, like they're mentioned because he has parents. I'm like, why is his mom here? Like, what's his mom got to do with it? And I found out that she had actually, like, I don't know, visiting her son, she saw Walter Collins, no one knows for sure who that little boy was, had her son's ranch, and instead of saying, like, who's that? Or is this Sanford's friend? Because they'd be about the same age, I guess. Or like, oh, is this someone working with the chickens? She's like, he knows too much, he's gotta go. So, she helped kill him and bury him. Because that's what supportive mothers do. And then even though they were caught, oh yeah, that's what his mom has to do with. That's why she was fleeing with him. Because that just came out of nowhere that she was with him, and I was like, wait a minute. Why is she with him? But yeah, that's why she's there. So even though they were caught in Canada, errors and extradition papers, they were not sent back to LA until November 30th of 1928. Which is about maybe 2 months. Based on how slow the justice system is nowadays, I would say this is decently fast. I don't really know. This was almost 100 years ago, so obviously things are very different. But whilst being held in British Columbia, because they were in custody the whole time, thank goodness, Sarah, his mom, confessed to the murders, like all of them, including Walter Collins, if it was Walter Collins. But when they sent her back to LA, she retracted her statement. Like, I didn't say that. I changed my mind. I didn't do any of it. And apparently Gordon also retracted his statement of him saying he killed more than 5 boys on the ranch. I don't remember reading when he confessed, but apparently they both confessed at some point, then they changed their minds when they got back to LA. So, because they were sent back to LA, they both retracted. His mom was like, you know what? I lied again. I changed my mind again. I did murder, but just Walter Collins. Walter Collins. We don't know. That's why I put in quotations. So she confessed to that. You're like, okay, this is your final statement. You can't keep changing your mind. So she was never put on trial. They're like, she confessed, and she confessed to killing, so life in prison. For you, ma'am. No trial for you. Which sounds like she did it, but like, I feel like that would not fly today. But she was not given the death penalty solely for her being a lady. So that wasn't even on the table. They're like, you're a lady, and we're gonna treat you like a lady. Life in prison for you. No trial. But that was on December 31st of 1928. So the last day of 1928. What a way to start the new year, Sarah. So meanwhile, Sanford told police where the bodies were, supposedly. And the 3 shallow graves that they found at the ranch did not contain bodies. They just contained parts of bodies. So the evidence found in graves consisted of quote, 51 parts of human anatomy. Those silent bits of evidence of human bones and blood have spoken and corroborated the testimony of living witnesses. End quote. So this evidence concluded that Walter Collins, the two Winslow brothers, and the unknown fourth victim had all been murdered. No shit. That seemed quite obvious to me, but I guess you gotta get evidence. But according to Sanford Clark, the fourth victim was a Mexican man that Northcott forced Clark to help dispose of. I don't think he had to help with the murder, just the disposing of, which, horrible enough. And, like, why did he just say no? Well, you try saying no to someone who's abusing you like that. Like, that's not gonna fly. So he helped him by burning the man's head. The man's dead, don't worry. I guess I'd want to be dead if my head was being burnt. Ignore this. But they burned his head and crushed his skull. And, Northcott also said, quote, left the headless body by the side of the road because he had no other place to put it, end quote. That's horrible. I don't know why he didn't just put it in the fire with the man's head. I don't get the logic here, but I don't get the logic of murdering people either. So we gotta be honest here. At least he was honest in a sense. Because you know there are many cases where they're like, nope, I'm innocent, I didn't do a single thing, I am wonderful, until their graves. At least he's like, I'm caught, yeah, his body's by that shrub over there. I guess that was decent. It'd be really decent if he didn't kill the guy. But that's not how Gordon works, does it? He also stated quicklime was also used on the body, so that's why they were very hard to identify, and also why they were so far along in the decomposing stages, as well as not being whole anymore. And supposedly the bodies were dug back up by Sarah, the mom, and Gordon on August 4th of 1928 and burned in a deserted area somewhere. And this is why full bodies, unfortunately, were never recovered for any of them. They always found the pieces, but they never found a whole body after all these years. Gordon's trial, he got a trial, but not his mom. Sarah, his mom, she did take the stand, and she made excuses for her son. Oh boy. Some of them were that he was an illegitimate son of an English nobleman. I don't know why that excused his behavior, but maybe the thought that he's rich, I don't know. Another excuse was she was Gordon's grandmother, which wouldn't excuse his behavior either. That he was the result of incest between her husband and daughter. Or he was also sexually abused by the entire family. I don't know if she meant all these were true at once, because that's not possible. Or if she was just upping the ante, like, this one didn't work, let's try a different one. Oh, that didn't work, I gotta go crazier. I honestly don't think any of them are true. Thankfully, they didn't believe any of her excuses, which they seem pretty out there. And also, when none of them connect to each other, how could you believe one of them? Gordon was found guilty, minus Walter Collins. They're like, okay, you murdered these 3 other people, but not Walter. That was all your mom. Because she confessed to it, he was only found guilty of 3 counts of murder. Whew. He got off real easy. He was sentenced to death on February 13th of 1929. So, pretty fast trial thing, 2 months from getting him back in LA to one's in prison for life to death sentence. Again, I feel like things move a lot slower nowadays, but again, it's a different time. but he was executed on October 2nd of 1930 at San Quentin State Prison at 23 years old. That is young. I'm not saying feel bad for him. I'm saying he was on death row for almost 2 years. He was sentenced to death at like 20 to 21 years old for killing 3 people. That is insane. Well, it's insane no matter what age you are that you're killing people, but still. And then remember Sarah. She was just in prison for life because she's a lady. And she served 12 years. That's it, before she was paroled. Please let her go. And she died in 1944. I don't know of what, and I don't care. If she killed someone that's not polite, I don't deserve to know how you died. Wait, I don't know, you know what I mean. So now I'm going to talk about the aftermath, and then also the victims. So Sanford Clark was put on trial because he was there during all this, and he did help, not by choice, in disposing of the bodies. But he was not found guilty of murder, which, thank goodness, because I don't believe he committed any murders, and he was not doing any of this by choice. And he was a minor. I know that doesn't always excuse behavior, but like, this poor guy. And he just went through so much. So like, he's not guilty. We're not going to put him in prison, but he's going to go to rehab for 5 years. Like a rehab school for 5 years. But he only went for 2 years because he had such great behavior, because he's a decent human being. And they're like, oh, you're not crazy. Just your uncle. Yeah. So I didn't see much about his life, but he died on June 20th of 1991. So 30 years ago. I keep thinking 91 was like 10 years ago. It's 30. Junebug is 30. So, but he was at the age of 78, and he was buried in Woodlawn Cemetery in Saskatchewan on August 26th of 1993. He died in 91. He was buried in 93. Almost exactly 2 years later. Why it took 2 years to bury him, I have no idea. I don't know if he was in a different cemetery and they wanted to move him. I don't know if he was cremated in an urn and then someone's like, I don't want Clark on my bookshelf, and then they buried him. I don't know why it took 2 years. I don't even know if it had the off chance it had to do with the case. I doubt it, but I have no idea why it took 2 years to bury this poor man. And so another victim, obviously Walter Collins, supposedly. It's still technically unsolved, so it could have been someone else. And if it was someone else, I'm sorry that you're overshadowed by people thinking it's Walter Collins. I don't know what I believe about Walter Collins. I think I'm 50-50 on this. It truly could have been him. But at the same time, like, why is it still so prominently unsolved? I don't know. So many other videos about him that you could watch. I even think BuzzFeed Unsolved did a video on him, I think. Don't quote me on that. I could be totally wrong. But you can go find out more about him and his whole story and the crap his poor mother and family went through. But as mentioned earlier, there was also Lewis and Nelson Winslow, the brothers. Lewis was 12 and Nelson was 10. And they were abducted by Northcott on May 16th of 1928. Excuse me. They were abducted from Pomona, California, on their way home from a yacht club meeting. My first thought was, wow, they're rich. But then I was like, why are a 10 and 12-year-old at a yacht club meeting? Besides the point. They were abducted. I don't know how he convinced 2 of them to come with him or how he got 2 of them, but he did, unfortunately, and we know what happened to them. And then their father, so Mr. Winslow, led a lynch mob to the county jail Northcott was being held at during his trial, and they were demanding to hang him, we're just gonna do it now. He doesn't deserve a fair trial. But they're like, I see why you're mad, but no, we're gonna do the trial. He's gonna be found guilty. They go back home. He'll die eventually. Can obviously understand why the parents were angry. Duh. But they did go home, and then we obviously know Gordon was executed for what he did. And then the other victim was the poor random Mexican man. If he was even Mexican, I don't know. They never found out who he was, where he was from, how old he was. Like, we know he was a he, and most likely Mexican. I just feel bad. I wonder if there's a family out there somewhere that heard about all this going on and was just like, that's him. Like, that's my son, or that's my brother. But with all the publicity and stuff with Walter Collins, they just didn't want to come forward. So I guess if they somehow knew, that would be nice. At the same time, we'll never know. I most likely never know. But then Winneville did change its name to Miraloma, which it sounded more familiar to me, on November 1st of 1930 due to negative publicity. Gee, I wonder why. But it's like a month after they executed him, they're like, okay, brand new start, new name. But now Miraloma is a part of Eastvale and Jurupa Valley, or Jurupa Valley. I'm not sure how that works, doesn't really matter. Not Wineville anymore. But Winneville Avenue, Winneville Road, and Winneville Park all stay the same, so there would be some connection and remembrance of it, which I think is good. It's not good to remember these sad things, but they need to be known, so history doesn't repeat itself, in that saying, and just to keep the memories of those poor victims alive. This is the story of the Wineville chicken coop murders. Not as many like twists and turns or crazy things going on. Just sad. And I usually have the find the graves in the link below. I don't know if I'll be able to find the graves for all of them. Definitely for Sanford I can. Because I feel like I should do something. Because so many more modern cases, like if you follow them on YouTube, they'll have like at the end like the suicide hotline, or the hotline to call if you know any information by any chance, or like a petition to sign, which I do try to sign the petitions. But these cases are so old that they don't have that. I'm sure as I get more modern cases I'm sure there'll be more stuff, but this case from 1926, it doesn't have a petition or anything like that. So this is the way I could think of contributing. If that's really disrespectful, let me know. But I guess it shouldn't be disrespectful if you don't disrespect their graves. I don't know. Well, anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you preferred this background. Ooh. That sounded really creepy. Hope you enjoyed my shiny, sweaty face. And all my voice cracks and stuff from the spring allergies. But the next one might take a bit longer, not that any of you are just waiting by your screens for these videos. But because this next one, I started the research yesterday, is very close to home for me. Like 45 minutes away from my home. Not like a personal thing, like it's like less than an hour away the location is. So I think I might actually go visit the memorial place. It's in a park. It's not like I have to get special permission for that. And maybe I can put it in the next video, because that would be interesting. Very rarely do I hear about something this close. I'm sure if I like check the local news, there's horrible things closer, but this is not immediate danger. This happened 94 years ago, the one we're covering next. So still not a super modern case, but the old cases need some love. Love? And they should be known. Anyway, I've talked too long, and I hope you have a good week, and I'll see you next time with a Michigan case, because y'all know me and Genesis live here in Michigan. Bye-bye.